The courtroom was silent except for the slow ticking of the old clock above the judge's bench. A woman stood alone in the center, her hands trembling as she clutched a stack of worn papers. Her dress was faded, her shoes scuffed, and her face lined with grief showed the weight of too many sleepless nights. This was Mary Thompson, a widow who had lost everything except her courage to stand here today. The judge peered down at her over his glasses, his expression cold and impatient. "Mrs. Thompson," he said with a mocking tone, "you're telling me your landlord took your house, sold your husband's motorcycle, and you want it all back? With what lawyer? With what money?" A nervous laugh echoed around the room, and Mary's eyes filled with tears. "I don't have a lawyer, Your Honor," she said quietly. "I just want justice. My husband, he worked his whole life for that home, for that bike. It's all I have left of him." The judge leaned back in his chair and let out a short, sharp laugh. "Justice?" he scoffed. "Lady, the law doesn't run on sympathy. It runs on paperwork, deadlines, and facts. And from what I see here, you don't have a single thing in your favor." The gavel struck the desk once, echoing through the room. Mary's shoulders sagged as tears spilled down her cheeks. The few people sitting in the back whispered among themselves. Some pitied her, others just wanted to leave. The bailiff moved closer, ready to escort her out. But before he could, the sound of engines roared outside deep, thunderous and unmistakable. Heads turned toward the windows as one motorcycle after another pulled up in front of the courthouse. The noise grew louder, then stopped all at once. Moments later, the doors burst open. A group of bikers, more than 20, walked into the courtroom, their heavy boots thudding against the floor. Their leather jackets bore the same emblem on the back: Iron Faith Brotherhood. The courtroom went dead silent. Even the judge's smirk faded into confusion. At the front of the group was a tall man with a gray beard and eyes like steel. He took off his helmet, placed it on the bench, and nodded respectfully toward Mary. "Ma'am," he said softly, "you don't stand alone today." The judge cleared his throat nervously. "Who are you people? This is a courtroom, not a parking lot." The gray-bearded man stepped forward. "Name's Jack Daniels," he said. "I was your husband's brother in the Iron Faith Brotherhood. We rode with him for years. When we heard what happened, we did our own digging. Turns out your landlord didn't just evict you illegally, he forged documents to take your husband's bike and sell it off to cover his debts." Murmurs rippled through the courtroom. Jack handed a thick folder to the bailiff. "These are the real documents," he said. "Property records, sale receipts, witness statements. We also found out the landlord's been doing this to other widows and veterans." The judge flipped through the papers, his expression changing from arrogance to shock. How did you even get this information?" he stammered. Jack smiled faintly. "Let's just say we ride far, and we talk to people who don't usually talk to lawyers." Mary covered her mouth, trembling. For the first time in months, hope flickered in her eyes. The judge, now visibly uneasy, cleared his throat again. "It appears there's new evidence in this case," he muttered. We'll need to postpone this ruling until I can review these documents properly." Jack took a step closer. "With all due respect, Your Honor, you laughed at this woman when she was alone. Now that she's got people behind her, maybe you'll take her seriously." The judge said nothing. His face turned red as he adjusted his robe and looked down. The courtroom stayed silent, the tension thick as smoke. When the gavel struck again, the sound was softer this time. Case reopened, the judge said quietly, "Mrs. Thompson, you'll have a fair hearing." Mary's knees nearly gave out as she whispered, "Thank you, all of you." Jack nodded. "Your husband was a good man. He helped us all when we were down. We're just paying it forward." As the bikers escorted Mary out, the reporters who had been sitting quietly in the back rushed forward, snapping photos and asking questions. By evening, the story spread across the town how a poor widow stood up for justice, and how a brotherhood of bikers brought the truth to light. Weeks later, the court ruled in Mary's favor. The landlord was arrested for fraud, and Mary regained her home and her husband's beloved motorcycle. When she stood outside the courthouse, tears of joy streamed down her face as the Iron Faith Brotherhood cheered for her. She placed her hand on the worn leather seat of her husband's bike and whispered, "We did it, love. We finally did it." Jack smiled beside her. "You didn't just win your case, Mary," he said. "You reminded everyone what real justice looks like. It's not about money or power. It's about standing together when someone's hurting." That day, the small town learned a powerful lesson. Compassion can roar louder than any engine, and true justice isn't found in laughter from above, but in the courage of those who refuse to be silenced. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the bikers rode out of town in a thunder of engines, leaving Mary standing tall beside her home, no longer the widow who lost everything, but the woman who fought back and won. And though the judge never admitted it, some say he never laughed at another poor soul again.